Welcome everybody to your IEL community podcast. I'm your host Kairos Lacuna, and I'm here joined by Caesar from BPT, also known as Battle Body Tactics, and Reasons from I Can't Sleep, or also known as ICS. How you guys doing?
I'm
Doing
doing pretty
great.
good.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. I wanted to congratulate you guys on BBT for getting into the CCS invite after such a hard match on against Outbreak on the finals. It was a 3 a.m. match, I think, for EST, and you just
It
got
was not fun.
and you guys were on losers, so you had to brought it even more up. Like, how many maps did you have to win? Like four?
We had to win 3 because going into it we were at a 1-0 disadvantage because
Mm,
of CCS rules.
yeah, because well, you were in losers bracket, and that's more or less how a losers bracket works. But yeah,
Yeah, no one had informed us of that.
yeah,
But
there's
we
still
won. We only gave up 2 rounds out of 3 maps, so we're happy.
yeah. I mean, it was a spirit timing match, and all of you guys were well. You were specific, because I believe you're the only EST player on BBT.
Yes, I am the only EST player on BPT.
You as an entry fragger playing all day and then having to play at 3 a.m. for the final spot for the match that counts the most, and that's the one that has the most amount of maps. It's not
Yep.
hard. That's not easy.
Yeah, school was a lot of fun the next day.
Oh god. Yeah, that I. It's a great accomplishment to be on what people regard as the best amateur siege league at the moment. In terms of the quality of the teams there and the quality of the production. So guys, I wanted to talk to you about a few things on Rainbow here, since this is all about the community. This is a podcast not so much focused on ESL, but more on the community that we're building right here. People from CCS, people from IEL, people from ESA. I wanted to see you guys first and take a step back. And what do you guys think the Rainbow for Rainbow Six looks as a both be it a casual game and a competitive game as an esport? Because we have been growing exponentially and in terms of player count, but the competitive side doesn't really reflect that. We get tops around, let's say, 10 10k views. What do you guys think is the future Rainbow Six looking at that?
Well,
That's a very broad question. I think just like as an overall standpoint, it's going to get more competitive in nature, and there are going to be more opportunities for people to go competitive.
Yeah, but do
there'll be
you
more money in it. Like
More money,
we
yeah.
know Flipside quit, like all of them quit their jobs to focus on
really?
this season
I
of
did
Pro
not
League.
know that.
Yes. Yep,
I
they
had
quit their
heard that.
jobs.
I wasn't sure.
That's a very
And
bold move.
That is
yeah,
a very bold move.
I think we're gonna start to see more things like that as more money comes into it. We're gonna start to see the quote unquote pro league teams, the teams that are really professional in that they're doing this to make money.
Hmm.
We're gonna see them start to quit their jobs. We're gonna see them start to
Those
take a
streaming
step
full time,
back.
playing full time.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Uh, Kind of like what we see with like League, where everyone has to go down to San Francisco. Like all the teams move down there, and they have to live there because they're LAN every day or
Hmm.
every time they play.
Yeah.
Um, it's gonna get interesting, and the same vein though, I think this game has more longevity in players than a lot of those teams though. We see people that are like 20 something, I think 24 or 25 in Pro League, when like that's unheard of in every other esport.
Yeah, there's usually much younger players. I know, for example, that in Overwatch they signed up a crazy contract for somebody called Sinatra, and he's around like 17, 16 years old, and he's already
Yeah.
making like I think the contract was for $150k a year or something.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god,
Eh,
that's a lot.
and that's a teenager.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but my point with that question is, do you think that new bigger orgs are gonna be scared to jump into a game that, even though has been growing exponentially, is still played with a lot of mm, issues like bugs, like hit registration, and just not. It's not always a very good experience for the players themselves, and sometimes not even for the spectator. When you have to keep constantly re-hosting matches, which is just elongates the playtime.
In the end, the people that are sponsoring ESL and sponsoring Pro League and sponsoring Siege, they're putting their name on the product, and if that product isn't good, then it can reflect negatively on the company that's sponsoring it. So, in respect to your question, I think until the game is not a little more refined than it is now, I don't think we're going to see a lot of the big names jump in to Siege.
Yeah,
It needs a little more love and care.
yeah, and to specify by the big names, we already have some big-ish names like Elevate and like Rogue. But when we say
I'm
big
talking.
names, we're talking about Team Solo Mid, about Cloud9, about Virtus Pro. Those big followers. There's big teams with a lot of followers and a lot of merchandise and a lot of teams. They're just
But
very highly regarded.
I'm also talking like BenQ. I'm talking about like Logitech. I'm
Oh, you're
talking
talking about
Nvidia.
sponsors.
Like from both of them,
Mm,
like they're like teams, as in like Cloud9 and all them, aren't gonna jump on because there's not money there.
hmm
To get money there, you need sponsors, and the sponsors look at the product and looking at the reach that it had. There's
Yeah,
not a ton of reach in Siege right now, and the product's not that good.
yeah.
So
Because in,
why would they jump in?
but it also might be a small sputtle of death situation. Because we only have one ish LAN, really, like one
Yep.
highly regarded LAN, which are the Pro League finals.
Yep.
And the biggest one we had, which was a very big success in my opinion, was the Gamescoms one,
Yes, we
which
saw
it
a lot of new players.
yeah it brought a lot of new players. It actually raised the peak player count from I think 60 something 60k players playing at the same time on Steam to like 75. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
that's a big increase. That's just 15,000 players that just jumped into it on a weekend. But I believe that until we get more lands, we're not gonna get more money involved, and until we get more money involved, we're not gonna get more lands. And just not even necessarily lands, but just events in general, maybe new leagues. Because all the new leagues that we have right now are community funded. Are people that take out of their own money to do something for the game that they love, like CCS, like IEL, like KSA. It's not something necessarily to make money, but it's something to help the community. But also touching on the subject of the community leagues right now, but do you think that there's a future for the players, the teenage players that are competing in them? Since their age cap average is around above 13, while ESL, which is the company that runs all of Pro League and all of Challenger League, which is the bigger names in the scene, is 18 and over. Do you think that there's a future for those players that are competing in the lower leagues that just aren't able to compete in the bigger ones?
There may be a future for them, but the best way that they can get into it is if ESL as a company or ESL as in Pro League, the specific Rainbow Six side of ESL,
Mhm.
if they lay out a track, if they lay out a platform for these younger people to be raised in ESL, so they can, when they turn 18, they can actually join a team, they can start the path of becoming a pro gamer.
Mhm.
Because there's a lot of pitfalls, there's a lot of traps once you become 18 and actually start looking into ESL.
Yeah.
That would be the best way that they could do it. The community stuff is great, and it's showing these bigger teams, and it's showing that there is a scene for Siege. It just needs money. In the end, ESL is the biggest thing we have, so these younger kids need to get into it.
Yeah. And also, ESL is the youngest thing we have, and I believe that in terms of the quality of the teams, they can definitely do that. They're just being held back by their age. We have
Oh yeah.
people like the amplitude. I think no, don't remember
EGA.
yeah, the name that they're going by now. I don't remember it. They were known as EGA before all the backfall of CCS happened. But EGA is like great. They have great players, and it's just a great team overall. And they can definitely easily get into maybe they could get easily into Challenger League. I don't want to get into arguments if they will make Pro League, but it's definitely a possibility. They're just being held back by their age, and it's something that I believe that a lot of teams are going through right now.
Yeah, definitely. There are, and now we see how they're doing right now. And while they didn't necessarily do a phenomenal last pro league game, um, I know those guys pretty personally, and I know that they're going to come out. They're going to lead with a right hook, as there's a saying where I live. They're going to lead with a right hook next game.
Right? You cut out for a second there in my end. Can you tell me who are you talking about?
I was just saying that the team, WBG, World's Best Gaming,
Mm-hmm.
they've been together since season 1, and they were known as Not Yet Labeled. And I
Oh.
know that they didn't they had been pro league material since season 3, but just due to some age issues, they didn't get into pro league until this past season, or they didn't start trying in Challenger League since this past season. And even though they had been at that level for a fairly decent time, so I know them, and I know if there had been age allowances, then there would be a lot more really strong teams contending in ESL.
And also, I'm gonna deviate a bit from here, but there's something that I want to touch on that Interrobank, who was actually previously a caster for one of our community leagues, ECCS, and is now casting Pro League. On his first day, he touched upon, and it's that WBG, they always play together. You'll always see them being queued up together. They don't. A lot of teams they just either scrim together or maybe they get like a duo. Let's say, for example, that Nianino and Abrachi, to say a name from Rev, they queue together, but the rest they don't play. That like they just there for scrims, and that really hurts your synergy. That really hurts you to
Mhm.
grow as a team. When you
Something I do with one of the players on my team, we're basically charged with the two entry fraggers, me and DMR. Something we do that not a lot of teams do is we go into realistic terrorist hunt on house, and we just focus so hard on if someone is engaging, you watch beside them, behind them, you kill the guy sent to kill them.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's so you start doing refragging, which is something very basic in this game that a lot of newer teams
mhm.
don't do it.
Yeah, and after we do that for about an hour, and then we dedicate the next 2 hours to playing with the ESL team. And I strongly suspect reasons that ICS is doing something at least similar, just
Oh yeah.
practicing a lot. Together. Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
Definitely, and something that
Practice makes perfect.
yeah, practice makes perfect, but it's not only practicing with your team, but rather making your team feel welcome and not like a job. Because in the point of the game is to be having fun. But if you only play with your team when you're scrimming or when you're practicing, your synergy is just not gonna be as good as a team that constantly five Qs on their by themselves with their team, like WBG does. Like you can see the synergy that they have as a team since they were playing as recent say since season 1. But not only do they scrim together, they play the game together.
Right, and you touched on a very delicate note there. What the goal is to have fun, and while I do agree with you, I think that a lot of I know this for BBT, for example, is that um trying to find a way to say this. You want to have fun, but you also want to do well, because when you're doing well,
Hmm.
you're having fun.
Yeah, that's yeah.
And it's a hard subject because you don't want to turn it into a job.
Hmm.
But sometimes people have the mentality that it needs to be a job for them to truly take it seriously. And but with that job mentality comes a lot of different changes. You start treating it like a company, and that leads you to roster changes. Unfortunately, so and so's not getting the job done. We're gonna have to
Which
replace
is
them
what
with this
happens
guy.
in NA. That's the very famous NA shuffle. People just show
Oh yeah.
instead of working out on their problems as a team, they just rather okay, you're not doing the job that I got you here for. I'm gonna change it for this other guy. But that also,
Right, and
yeah,
it's important to work things out as a team, but it's also equally as important to be able to say, unfortunately, try as we might, we've worked things out, we've tried, you're still not accomplishing this task that we need you to. So you will be moved to a subcategory or you will be removed from the team. Being able to put your friendship aside and look at it from a purely objective standpoint is something that a lot of NA teams lack,
hmm
whereas a lot of European teams fully comprehend because they do treat it like that employment mentality.
yeah. But here's the thing. For example, in NA, I have not yet seen a player except King George, but he left after it was done to him. That they relegate a main roster player to a sub player, so they can still have the synergy that they had with that player, but they can get somebody that gets the work done when he doesn't. But what was I gonna say? But yeah, the thing is, when you bring a new player up, that means you need to start re-dry running the strats that you already have. But that's not really an issue in Pro League since you only do the roster changes after the season is over. So you already have the meta changes coming in. But the main issue I feel like is with the scenario with the team, and it's something that's really important. It's just like knowing what your teammate is gonna do and when. It's really important so you can function as a team. Because if
It's
you,
the chemistry
Absolutely.
part of it.
yeah, and if you just don't have that synergy as a player, like the player might be doing well on his other team, but he might be doing well on his other team because of his teammates, not necessarily because of his
Very
own
much
skill
so.
alone.
And definitely, synergy can be worked upon and built like that, but in a lot of cases I've seen, synergy is just born.
Mm-hmm.
You don't exactly, you can make it with people, and that is extremely hard, and I've done that, but also with other people, you just have it naturally.
Oh yeah, I guess it's just when you guys start playing with people that play similar to you, they have the same train of thought that you have, so you just put yourself in their place and you act
hmm
accordingly. But
Or sometimes when you play with people who are the inverse of you,
hmm
you mesh really nicely because while you might not want to engage this,
they will.
while you might not want to take on an engagement, but you will watch someone's back who is willing to take on that engagement, and someone wants to, take that engagement but doesn't want to watch it back, boom,
Mm.
perfect synergy. I've been in that place with several people and decided, hey, you want to try out for the BBT ESL team?
Yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying there. But it's just that when you have a lot of versus changes, this is an extreme sample that I've never seen before. But it's something that happened recently in Pro League with the previously known as Excellence, now known as I believe
Oh,
Era.
yeah.
They they first of all they dropped true players, so they kept the 3 out of 5 rule for ESL to stay qualified.
hmm
But the thing is, they after their first match, Snake Nate went back into retirement, and Fox A dropped the team altogether.
hmm
And they just had to bring pretty much 4 new players to the team.
Well, granted, we don't know what happened behind the scenes. It might have been more than just a performance issue. It might have been a personality
Yeah, it
clash
could have been.
issue. But that I do think like that was a very drastic decision that was made by Snake Nate and Foxay because effectively that team still had a lot of the people who were number one seed NA last season.
Mhm.
I can only speak for myself, but I would have stuck it out and tried to make things work unless something
Oh.
unimaginable happened between them.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I would have done the same. I don't know what exactly what happened behind the scenes, but if there was a possibility to work it through as a team, I would have taken that choice instead of just changing them out mid-season.
Yeah.
Cause
Well, in a sense, we can look at season 3 and see what Kickstar did. His team was number one seed NA, and he was in a really good place. And some behind the scenes stuff happened that he couldn't work through, and he left.
oh yeah,
But also,
yeah.
in that sense, it was good for him because he found a very more stable career doing a similar thing to what he loved.
Mhm. He's still helping to help the game that he loves, but he's on a more financially stable position right now.
Hmm.
But actually, this is a bit of a delicate subject, but I personally don't understand how Era is still allowed to compete in Pro League. Because it's supposed to be that you need to have 3 out of the 5 original players that are already qualified into it if you're gonna make roster changes. But to my understanding, they only have one because of all the roster changes that happen mid-season.
Well, if there's something this game has taught me, and the people running this game and the people running, the league, ESL, and smaller leagues, it's that if you have skill and people enjoy watching you, then rules can be bended and broken.
Yeah, I,
Very much so.
yeah, but it's just that those weren't the players, or those weren't the combination of players that earned that spot in Pro League.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree with you.
So, in my personal opinion, if what I would have done if I was the guy in charge of that, I would have probably relegated that team to Challenger League and just moved the next seed up, which I think would have been either Onslaught or the previously known as Fable, now known as Elite Delete guy that they placed third in last season Challenger, and they put and just moved them up on the bracket and put it in Pro League. Because it's just, or make them play a relegation match between the teams so they can at least prove somewhat their worth. Because you just have a bunch of players known to be in Pro League, but not known to be for playing together. And when you're in the team about Siege, is that it's a team game. It's not it's not a game that you can consistently have one guy carry you over.
Yeah.
That's something we take very seriously at ICS. The team part of it. We stay with the same roster. We've actually not changed a lot um, in since we've been a team, and we very much take that seriously. If we lose a team. If we win as a team. Just because one person's top fragging doesn't mean that they didn't have the other 4 people supporting them the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, indefinitely. That's something that I have to remind a lot of people of very frequently. It's that actually my friend started up just a minor league siege team,
Hmm.
and he wanted me to instill words of wisdom in his team, and amongst other stuff, what I told them is that this is a team. Just because you're stressed doesn't mean the guy next to you isn't. And
Mm-hmm.
something you always need to remember is that yes, that 1v4 clutch you had to carry your team, that would not have been possible without the callouts of your friends.
I agree.
So you win as a team,
And you lose as a team.
you succeed as a team, you fall down as a team, and you pick yourself back up as a team.
I couldn't have said it any better at all.
It's unfortunately it's something that a lot of players don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We've had to try to come up with people because we had a spot open up because one of our guys times changed where he was available, and so we had to try some new people out. And a lot of Ash Jaeger mains out there. If you're ever looking for an Ash Jaeger main, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
But it was the fact that a lot of them were like, I dropped 5 kills, and I went 5-3, or I was top fragging. So yes, you were,
But that's your
but
job.
like you didn't do well as a team member, or there was some synergies that weren't done well, or like as you were playing, you were doing something that just didn't fit well with the rest of the team members. Like it's a weird mentality that a lot of people don't understand.
A lot of people think that, if they break double digits that they're entitled to a spot, where truth be told, that couldn't be even further from the point. I would wholeheartedly accept a support /fragger role, even if they barely got any kills in a game, just if they could make these stellar callouts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very much
Because
so.
something that a lot of people don't understand, like people watch, for example, did you watch the yesterday's game for Most Wanted versus Elevate? Well, if you guys didn't watch it, Chala, he broke into double digits. And
Really?
yeah, he broke into like, if I believe correctly, it was around 14 kills, 16 kills in one map.
That's great.
Yeah, that's great, but people pretty much think that that's solo skill alone. those things wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for their team.
Oh, definitely. Like the only reason he did that was because he had the support of
Hmm.
his team behind him.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Um,
he has his team making callouts, but he also has his team watching his back.
like
So,
I've met King Leo and Trippin, and I've met those guys. I've played them. I've met after I played them, which actually says something. Um, those guys, they're phenomenal people, and the callouts that they make, like I've met a lot of big names in this game, and the best callouts I've ever heard from a team either belong to Junis and Pingu from Penta, or Trippin and King Leo from Most Wanted.
thank you. I could definitely see what you say with Jonas and Pengu from Penta, since Pengu releases a lot of videos of him playing competitive, like actual Pro League matches with commentary
Yeah.
and with the comms, which actually he did release a video and analyzing the comms that were happening in the team, which is a very interesting watch for anybody that's starting up a team or just willing to look for more info to improve yourself as a team. But I did not know that from Chippen and King Leo. I can't say I didn't expect them because honestly they are my favorite team in Pro League right now since ever since last season, since they started showing their wacky new strats like a master bedroom hold and a tower defense. But the thing is, things like that, in my opinion, shouldn't. Yeah, they should be rewarded, but at some point they should be expected of. Because you can, when you get into a certain level as a player, or when you as a team, you have some expectations of how you need to perform, and callouts are one of them. But uh, coming back to what I was saying about people starting up a team, you, Caesar, since you have an administrative role in BBT, you said you were the counter strat person.
Uh, I'm in charge of making in the game, like in round decisions of where to push, how to push, who should push,
Ah, so
counter
you're
strat kind
pretty
of stuff.
much like the in-game leader, pretty much.
Not necessarily. I split that role up with my teammate Prince Owley. He's dedicated to basically telling people, he pays attention to how people play and will critique them mid round and say, well, instead of doing this, let's try this.
Mm-hmm.
Or he'll pay attention to something close to sight, whereas I will leave sight, try to take in as much information as I possibly can, and then inform the people back on site how to adapt to it. And then
Okay.
vice versa, when we're attacking, he'll call out like the initial stuff, where to push, how we're gonna do it, where to set up our drones. And after a couple kills in, either for them or for us, I will make the in-game adaptation calls to, instead of doing this, do that. We
That's
split that role up because we felt that was too much for one person to deal with.
that's something really interesting that I've seen. I don't remember which was the other thing that I saw do it. That they had like a late in-game leader. That was his official role.
That's essentially what I do.
Yeah, but
Fabian's team does that.
well,
Pinta,
They
yeah,
they have,
that's right. That
they have
sounds
a,
that sounds correct.
they have a macro and a micro IGL.
mm, yeah, but do you think that that sort of template could work for any team, or do you have to have some sort of a special relationship with your players for that to work?
Um, a certain amount of trust needs to be instilled. You have to trust the people who are telling you what to do, and if you don't, there will be that tiny little grain, like this little seed in the back of your mind asking you, do they know what they're doing? Which
Yeah.
is why a lot of times the better skilled people on your team are in leadership positions. And to answer your question, no, I do not think it would work for every team. I think that some teams need one firm leader that is always the leader that you never question.
Mhm.
I think that some teams need a leader that accepts questioning, that that will occasionally even say, wow, you're right, I'm wrong, let's do what you said.
Mhm.
And then I think that some teams, need upwards of two leaders. I think you could dedicate a person to what strats to use, dedicate a person to focusing on player performances, and then I think you could dedicate a person to in-game adaptations. I think you could put three. I don't see a team going any more than three, even though I have heard of four from the
Damn.
Challenger League teams. and just that fifth guy just saying, I do not want any part of this. Um, but I think 2 was a good even number for BBT. I think that it took a lot of stress off of Prince, and I think it gives me a little bit more just to keep me active in the group instead of just waiting for callouts and positions and then going and killing those people. Because, in all honesty, that gets stale.
Yeah, I can definitely understand what the point that you're making. But since you're also the, let's just say, the late in-game leader, what what tips would you give to a team that's just starting out, or to a team that's already, like, let's say, have around a month playing together? What would you say things that they need to get from the very base?
Practice, practice, practice. Know your goals. Know where you want this team to go. Like, I recently had a moment like that with my team where I typed out about a 3,000, not necessarily 3,000, about a 2,500 word just message that I had to split into 18 different Discord segments.
Damn.
Yeah, it was bad. About where I wanted to see the team in the following 6 months, and how I wanted everybody to direct message me, private message me, and I wanted them to tell me where they wanted to see the team. And after that, I then had this deeper understanding of where this team needed to go and how we needed to do it. And, I incorporated a lot of other stuff. We had just won a scrim against Most Wanted, or formerly known as Bittersweet. We'd won a scrim against Bittersweet on Border, actually, one of their stronger maps. And so I took the time to, tell people performance thoughts. It wasn't just dedicated to where I wanted to see the team, but after that, I told them that no goal was outlandish, that there was no wrong answers, and that I really wanted people to give me their honest to God opinions.
Hmm.
And everybody said, while this team might not be there, or while I might not be on this team when they do it, I want to see this team go to LAN. I want to see us go to a LAN event. And what was really proud for me, and what actually really restored my faith in this team, because every IGL needs faith restored in their team occasionally. Like, that's just
Yeah.
what they showed me is that 5 people, the 4 people other than me, and the sub all told me the same goals, and they said, we want to get to LAN. And after that, I knew that they were prepared to work towards that. After they had vocalized the goals, I knew that they were prepared to work towards it.
That's
So have your team vocalize its goals, and then work your ass off to bring yourself to those goals. There needs to never be a day where you don't visualize that goal, because you can get burned out on this game just because you're doing the wrong things trying to get to a place.
hmm
You can do the wrong things the right way and get nowhere, and then do the right things the wrong way and still get nowhere. So know what you want to accomplish in this game. That's the biggest one I suggest for teams.
that's
A
something that, yeah.
slightly different aspect to that is like you take the very fast approach. We're gonna work our ass off every day to get somewhere. Like ICS is a little different. Like we very much agree that like we're all pretty much friends, and if Siege wasn't there, we'd still be playing together. At the same time, we still practice, we still scrim, we still do all that stuff. We do the quote unquote like gross, the icky stuff of having to be a team
Hmm.
where you have to sit down for 3 hours a day and practice. Like that's
The hours of
something we have
strat
to do.
practice.
Yeah, but at the same time, like we had to sit down and have that goal talk and like the expectations of the team and all that. And we came up to like we don't really need to go to pro league. We don't really need to go to LAN. That would be dope if we made it that far. But in the end, we're doing it to have fun. Like Siege at ranked is not that fun. Siege casual is actually awful. And like T hunts is okay. So
Hmm.
we want to practice and we want to get good at competition. We want to get good at the competitive side of Siege. And so we do that. But at the same time, we realize that there's gonna be burnout. There's gonna be there's gonna be weeks where it's like somebody like something goes on in their real life and they can't sit down because like we can't think of this as a full time job. Like I can't pay rent
Mhm.
playing this game, and a lot of people can't. A lot of people like they have to have full time job to do all the stuff outside of Siege that they have to do. So there's a dichotomy, if you will, where you have the it seems like the BBT side of it that I see a lot of teams do, which is I know the old Devious did this way back with Push and Dropshy and all that.
Oh, that was way back. Okay.
Oh yeah, there was like I think they scrimmed twice a day, every day. If you couldn't make it, they scrimmed twice a day, and if they couldn't make it, you were basically put on not necessarily probation, but you were there was a talk that was given basically,
Mm.
and that's way too much for most normal people to do in a day.
Definitely,
what-
yeah.
With life and things going on,
Mhm.
so we're taking the long approach, if you will. We're gonna practice. We're gonna get our straps up. Our chemistry is already leaps and bounds ahead of what it used to be, and we're gonna work our way up, and we're gonna see where we end up. And like
Right,
this-
and I know what I said might have sounded a bit serious, and a bit like kind of cutthroat, but you know, while that is our overall goal and we are working feverishly towards that, there are times when we're just like, screw it, we're going to play PUBG, or
yeah.
after a really hard game, we'll go play Cards Against Humanity. That's been like the best stress reliever. Just go play Cards Against Humanity. It's hilarious. Um, in fact, one game, everybody was so stressed that we actually wrote a song mid-game. It was actually Kairos when we were facing Soar.
Mm.
We wrote a song, like a legitimate song,
What?
just screwing around. We were just trying our absolute best to stay cool and stay focused. And you could actually see that, after we kind of lost that cool and focus, that was actually it was on the cafe map, and they almost made a comeback, but we managed to lock it out. But maintain cool and calm. Like, we work feverishly towards the goal, but we all understand if someone needs to take a break, if someone needs to go pursue school more for a week.
Mhm.
If you're not, if your grades fall, no one is ever, and I made a purpose on this. I told them the minute I got promoted to co-captain, I was like, no one ever gets to criticize somebody for focusing on their studies more than ESL for a week or a month, or even just leaving the team.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. Like, we all have sleeps. We all have lives, but after the game, we all have stuff to do. We all love the game, but it doesn't mean that it will always be our primary focus.
Exactly. Half of like a majority of our team is are in studies right now. I'm double majoring in finance and economics. I know one person is majoring in, hang on, let me get this right, biomedical. I can't get it right. It's like it's an entire sentence of a major. And other people have full-time jobs. Other people are getting full-time jobs, and Siege can't always be your primary focus.
Yeah.
It does help, but having Siege as a strong secondary focus is it's the way to go when you have a job or school.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, if like I'm in the position that if I could make a living out of Siege, I would definitely do it in an instant because I love the
I think
game.
we all are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we all.
definitely.
But the thing
I
is,
don't think
it's
there's
just
anybody you talk to that's in Siege who are playing in Go Fours or as low as Go Fours. Like that is not like if I can make a living out of this, I would do it.
yeah. The
No, definitely.
thing is, it's just it isn't that easy. There's
No.
No, it's
it's
not easy.
just it's not stable. It's not reliable. There's a lot of stuff that you need to be
Mhm.
doing as well. For example, a lot of pro teams, not only in Siege but also in other esports, they play, yeah, and they might get paid a salary depending on the contract, or they might just get the earnings. It all depends on the contract that you're getting.
VG was one of the first teams in NA that got
A salary.
Salary
Yeah, and it wasn't even that big of a salary. It was like what, $300 a month?
is barely a sustainable. It wasn't even a sustainable lifestyle.
No, it was
No.
300. You can't survive with $300 a month. It's a plus. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's nice, but the point is, a lot of pro teams, even when they quit their jobs to pursue their pro gaming career, they still have to stream or do YouTube or do whatever else on the side because you just
It's
can't live only out of this.
depending
Right.
on how you see it, it's even sadder than that. There's a lot of them that just use savings. Like they just straight up live off their savings. There's some that have like their girlfriends or their wives that are working and paying for rent. There are some that like yeah they can stream, but they might have a business giving them passive income.
Mhm.
It's not as straightforward. It's not like the other esports where like you can if you make it in the pro league, you can literally just live off of that.
I mean,
Yeah, this is not G2 from CS:GO. You know, we
yeah.
everyone has to work.
It's very like that was kind of like what hit us when we had that expectation talk, which is like we really can't live off of this even if we made it that far. So like why would we bust our ass and stress to the point where it's impacting our daily lives and could in fact impact like our relationships or impact
Mhm.
our jobs.
Health.
And then,
Like to get to what payoff? Like what's your payoff? All right, we're at land. Sweet. We made 2 grand each that we can take home. Like that's amazing. But like, what do we have to sacrifice to get there? It's almost like Siege, in which it's a game about figuring out cost benefit analysis of
yeah.
what you're doing.
Like I don't necessarily agree on the money part. I know you just said 2 grand as an example, but I
It's more
know
than that, but
no.
it's
Like
not
the
much
thing is,
more.
it's a lot more than that. I know that the siege like price pool got a bump this year. It's 1.5 million for the whole year, and the price pool for the Pro League finals, which is just you already need to do a hell of a lot of work just to get to Pro League finals, and even then you're not sure a price if I recall correctly. The price pool is around 230 something thousand dollars. But the thing is, when you look at that, you also need to. You probably the country that you have with your sponsor or your organization or whatever, it's gonna take a percentage out of that. Then you also need to,
As well as taxes and
and
all that fun stuff.
So
and after that you
so
have to
from
split the money into 5 people.
Hmm.
there's a website that I'm on, esportsearnings.com,
Hmm.
and the top most paid Siege competitor is England, Laxing, and Skies, and they've each made $17,600 from the prize pool alone. That's it. That's top. That's the most anyone's ever
And
made.
that's
Like
from
the
what
straight
the
prize.
the last season.
That's total.
Oh,
That's
see,
from them played
yeah, it's just
just total.
I'm just clarifying for whoever is listening, so they don't say that. Oh, but there's a lot more money in that. Yes, there is a lot more money in that, but that amount of money comes with a lot of asterisks.
Yes.
Hmm.
So yeah, we will all love to have a sustainable lifestyle out of Siege, or probably just playing video games in general. Because come on, who wouldn't? But it's just not sustainable at the moment. But hopefully, it will be sometime in the future.
Very much so. And like I see it getting to that point. It's a very interesting game to watch, even if you don't understand it. I have like friends that I know that like outside of the game, just like college and all that,
Hmm.
that watch it just because it's fun to watch.
Yeah, it is.
They don't play it. Whereas like with like some of the other games like MOBAs and stuff, if you don't understand what's going on, one, it's very difficult to get into it, and
Hmm.
two, can't really you see like pretty colors popping up and you see, oh, that might have been a good play, they got a kill, but like apart from that you don't know the meta aspect,
Yeah,
you don't
you
know like
don't know
what's
all the
happening.
intricacies, like all this, like the amazing thing about MOBAs is how complex they are and how much stuff is going on at the same time so that all the players are keeping track of.
Yeah.
And I for example, I enjoy watching MOBAs. I don't like keep constantly watching, but for example, I keep more or less up with each year League of Worlds, League of Worlds, League of Legends or World Championship. And I
Yep.
find it enjoyable to watch just because it's flashy. The commentators are actually incredibly good,
There's a lot of money in it. The
and
production value alone is one of the reasons I watched.
and I can kinda understand. Like I used to play League of Legends a long time ago, never competitively, because I just never could keep track of so many things at once, like what thing I should buy, what my opponent is buying, what wards. It's just so much stuff that I have to keep track of, and that I just couldn't make it work for me. But I still find it very enjoyable to watch, and it's the same for Siege for other people. See, Siege is a spectator report in the sense that there isn't that much that you need to know that's going on. Like, just it's very straightforward. Just say the guy, and they either kill the guy or they don't, and they either plant the bomb or they don't, and they either defuse it or they don't. It's pretty much
Yes.
it's very yes or no situations that you can always see. It's very easy to see the skill of a player, like what you can. It's pretty easy to see the high caliber of a player than it is to see just how high regarded a player is in MOBAs in other esports. Which is the same with saying CS:GO, but CS:GO translates a lot more into aim and how incredibly outlandish they land those shots. But it comes down to that, and that actually leads me to one of my next questions. We are talking a lot about what Siege is lacking in the grand scheme of esports things, which is money. But what do you think, if at all, it has in favor of the competition?
A
In my opinion,
strong community, a community that will band together to overcome a lot of different obstacles. Excuse me, a lot of different obstacles. Personally, like everybody was really toxic coming up through ranked, in that kind of platinum to goldish level. But the
Hmm.
minute I hit diamond and started playing against people, like that, everybody was kind. You play against pros who, if you kill them, they're like, oh, damn, good shot. And then you play in Go fours, and not necessarily all the Go fours, but a lot of the Go fours, these people, you have a general love for the game, and it becomes more of a, this person didn't kill me because of luck. This person killed me because he's better than me.
Hmm.
And
yes.
now I'm going to strive to become better than him. And you're in that business competition scheme. You're constantly trying to become better than the opponent, and that promotes healthy competition, that promotes friendships along the way. And I personally haven't met, like, I've met a couple toxic pro players, because there are going to be people, but 90% of my encounters with like every high ranking member in this community have been absolutely amazing. And that's what I think is going to get this game through its hardest moments, is a loving community.
Hmm. I absolutely agree. The community in this game, it can be pretty divisive at times in the sense of what direction they want to get the game going to. Because what I've seen is that there's a very strong casual community that wants the game just to be casual, not to be taken into the competitive aspect as much. And there's also the competitive scene. But they all when they need to, they always come together to support the game itself.
There's a mutual respect.
Hmm. I agree. And also, that leads me a bit into my other question, which is I believe we were talking about how we lack. I believe we talked about about this off screen. We're talking about how the only big name player in terms of organizations of leagues and such that we have right now it's ESL. We don't have ESEA, we don't have PGL, we don't have ECS, we only have ESL. But we have a lot of community-based leagues like CCS, like IEL ourselves, like TFS, which is a bit of a new one that not many people know about. But how do you think that that the big name companies do different that a lot that the smaller community-based leagues could do to improve? That what do you think that the community leagues could do that the big guys are doing, be it for the Rainbow Six Siege itself or for other games?
Oh,
Um,
damn, that's a good question.
I don't. I don't quite know how to answer that because like what could the leagues do? Like,
Because, for example, let's say I this is not to bash on CCS or anything, but we all know whoever was involved in that due to the restructuring of the ownership and everything, things weren't going as smoothly during the qualifiers for contenders that's now cancelled. I think it's proposed for next season, if I remember correctly, and for the invite,
They
things like that.
proposed definitely is what I heard.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think that what the smaller the smaller leagues should do a lot better is communication skills, which I actually don't think that even ESL does well themselves. Because I've seen that
I see.
they change schedules a lot, they change playtimes a lot. Like for example, I remember that Onslaught they got messed around. It messed around with their relegations match. I think they put it like a week after it was supposed to happen, and people had planned vacations by that week, and it was just a bit mess
I remember that.
yeah, on that
I
side.
remember it really screwed up Talon's plans.
Yeah, and things like that suck, and things like that are very basic things that we should improve as a community, as community leagues that we are, because us we are not making money out of this. We're just making it out of love for the people involved and for the play and for the game we all play.
All right, so for that question, I do have some stuff in mind. As far as how to improve these community leagues, communication, like you said, definitely communication. Um, make it a machine. Make it a well-oiled machine. Don't have people waiting for like 2-3 hours waiting for a game that's just going to get disputed the minute it ends. Make it a well-oiled machine. You have people in, you have them out, you have them a result, and break it down like that. Like I know this is like the first time doing this for a lot of different
Yeah.
leagues, and I understand that it's hard. I really do. Um, like BBT hosts 5v5, BBT versus BBT. We do that every Saturday. And then we all meet afterwards and we discuss what happened and how to better ourselves. So I understand, trying to deal with, 10 people at the same time. And I'm not trying to compare myself to the
No,
CCAS administrators, but make it a well-oiled machine. Do your job. If you can't, you do your job, and then if someone has a question that is not pertained in your job that you can't answer, don't sit there and guess. Don't pull something out of your ass. Pass it up. Make sure that it gets directly to the person whose job it is to answer that question or to take care of that task. Make it a well-oiled machine. And then other than that, just everyone needs to remember that it is just a game and these people are just doing it because they love the game.
Mm-hmm.
You touched on a point that's, in my opinion, huge, and that's the pass it up. There's too many times in other leagues that we'll talk to an admin, and then we'll get a response, and then like maybe a day later, sometimes it was like an hour later, we'll get another response, and that response is completely different than what we got previously.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Or like worst case, like disqualification or something like that. Just because one admin told us something and another admin that was higher than that has a different idea of how that rule should happen and that rule should be enforced. So it's
we need to know if we need to replay this round now,
Yeah,
not in
exactly.
an hour when we're in a whole different game.
Or after you
It's-
already replayed it.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
very-
exactly.
very big topic, and it's something that ESL does not do either, which is like there needs to be an authority, and everything that authority says is law. That authority.
Exactly. People don't need to contest that authority. They just need to accept it at that point.
Yeah, and if
Yes,
anything happens
exactly.
because of it, you discuss it after the event is over, and you take decisions on that authority after the event is over.
Absolutely.
Very much so.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with what
Yeah,
Reason said. 100%.
no, because the thing is, when you have admins flip flopping within each other, it's gonna cause a lot of time dilation. Like, you're just gonna be waiting for a consensus to be made, and you have things to do and matches to play and more matches to
And
play.
also something that it shows people, and CCS definitely has to watch out for this. They have to be aware of this. Is that you're filled in a Discord with underage players. They are now searching for your every weakness,
Mhm.
and if you show them that you're not standing by your admin's decisions, boy oh boy, have you just made a big mistake.
Very much
You have
so.
just exposed a weakness that could possibly cripple, your organization. This is now that you've showed people this, you either have to make a firm example and say that, and you have to give reasoning behind your decision of recanting, or you have to stand by this decision that you don't necessarily agree with, just to make the point that we stand behind the decisions that are made. And you can't just, you can't get wall banged, call hacks, and then get an entire game wiped fresh, start from beginning because of it.
Yep, I agree. I think decisions should be made, and when a decision is made by the person with the power to make the decision, it should be final. And then after the decision has taken place, it should be revised and discussed with the team, not during the event that it was taking place in. I wholeheartedly agree. Cause no, I'm not talking as a IEL representative here, cause people would probably take it as such. But I'm talking more as a player myself and as a coach as I am for a team called Revolution Esports, which it happened once with us on CCS. Let's be honest, but like I said, and it wasn't. They were very thin on staff, and they were dealing with the whole restructuring. I'm not gonna go too hard on them because of on it. But it has also happened in other leagues like ESEA and to some extent even here in IEL where just agreements cannot be made, and when agreements cannot be made, time is wasted, and when time is wasted, people get angry, and it just doesn't work for anybody. But taking a step back into the gaming related aspects and less of the business aspect, I've heard some competitive players from Challenger League level. I'm not gonna say any names, but that they feel like the amateur leagues at the moment are more as a ranked, like organized ranked matches, but not as much as a competitive game as Challenger League or even some other events are in that level. Do you guys agree with that? Since you BBTR in CCS Invite after all, and ICS you guys have been here for a long time.
Reasons, I'm gonna let you take this question. I gotta think about how I feel.
Sorry, you kind of went all robot on me because of Discord. Can you repeat on that?
I was just gonna let Reasons take this question first because I'm thinking about how I feel about that.
Hmm.
Just thinking about my answer.
Well, because I can understand where they're coming from since a lot of these players it's either their first competitive experience, they just came out from ranked and they're using what they know. Like for example, I I didn't have this. This wasn't my first esports game, as I used to compete in Smash 4 back in where I live in Dominican Republic. But I got into this game. I fell in love with the game, and I got hooked in the competitive aspect of it of ranked. And ranked is like what triggered that flame inside of me to keep competing, keep getting better. And the next thing after, and then and the next thing after the after ranked is to play competitive. And what I was doing is that I was just using my ranked knowledge, be it correct or not, would it always work or not. So I could
I,
see where people come from, but I don't know since I don't compete right now at that level if that actually applies.
it's a very difficult question because, like, in some aspects, yes, you are 100% right. Like, ranked vitality does work in competitive, but in the same side of the coin, no, it doesn't work at all. Because you need to know how
Hmm?
so, you need to know how the game works. You need to know, and ranked is kind of a good way to get into that. You need to know like the timing of things. You need to know like how late the round you really can open that wall with thermite before
Hmm.
you kind of have to give up on that and just switch around. And you can get some aspects of that in rank. You need obviously you need gunplay skills, and you need to understand that like one shot headshot with any gun works. Like there are some skills you need,
As long as it really works.
but at the same time, there's a lot of stuff you learn that is trash. Like, you should never use it in rank. Like
Like all the
If you get
runouts
ranked,
and jump outs and things like.
well, not necessarily. Sometimes that can be useful. If there's a team that you know that doesn't drone well, you can do
Mhm.
some cheeky spice, and you can like really ruin their day if you jump out and you know they're not watching. So I guess ranked might also help there, but it's ranked can also be difficult because there's a lot of strats you learn in ranked. There's a lot of stuff you learn in ranked,
Mhm. And it,
more along the strategic point of view that is garbage. It is absolute like reinforcing between sites. In ranked, you can get away with it because sometimes you can just out aim the opponents,
mhm. And also, I
and
believe that. Yeah, keep going.
or maybe they're just gonna walk into the door that you're watching, right? So like it's ranked is difficult. Where you really need to be is you really need to find people in rank that you enjoy playing with, and then delve into Go Force and start
Yeah,
building your way up that. Because that's an easy way that every week you can at least get some competitive aspect in. And
yeah,
then once you start doing that, you can start identifying some things you're doing wrong, and then scrim and work those out,
yeah.
and then you can build your way up. But like jumping straight from rank to CCS like that, or straight from rank to IEL, straight from rank to ESA, I don't know. I don't think that would work. There's too much missing in ranked for that to really work.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. I can. Thing is, I feel like a lot of their ranked strats. Not like I'm not gonna talk about really low ranks. Let's say from copper to low gold. I'm talking about high gold. High gold like gold one, gold two, almost gold one to like let's say flattish. Those strats a lot of the time is just the leftovers of either last season's meta in Pro League or the current season meta in Pro League. Like, because you see a lot of things that just bleeds from there, because people see it and people play and people who see it play ranked and people pick those things up. But I feel like also the thing about rank is that you have the solo player mentality that just doesn't work in a competitive aspect.
So you are right in that a lot of the strats and a lot of the reinforcements, a lot of the bard placement, a lot of the holes you see in walls are there because they saw that in Pro League. So like consulate upstairs in the like main office hold, opening the holes, the footholes in the cubby, so you can hold that from yellow stairs. I think that was Penta that did that, and so people started using that in rank. The difficulty is that people might use that part from Penta, and then somebody else on the team might be using something from like F3, and somebody
Mm,
else on the team might be using something from
that just and it just doesn't work
Excellence,
together.
and so now you have this mishmash of pro league strats that end up being worse than anything you could have ever done if you had some sort of mentality.
Mhm.
So it's ranked is a way you can build up your skills, but at the same time you can develop a lot of really bad habits from it.
Yeah, because I feel like the basics foundations of a just ranked player is a very different basics from a competitive player. Because in rank, there's no such thing as refragging unless you're doing a duo queue or something.
Yes,
But that's
that's a
something that is
huge
the
deal.
in the very foundation of a team when you're playing competitive. Like I said at the beginning, I don't believe it will apply to all the teams in the league. Since, for example, we have pro league teams after all in CCS. We have Most Wanted, and we have also and we have well WBG played last season, and we had Vex, which are now in Challenger League. So we still have some very high level teams in there, and so that doesn't really completely apply. But for the lower teams, I'm not gonna say them. I don't wanna bash on anybody, but it just doesn't work. Like it's things. How can I explain? It's the rank mentality doesn't work in the competitive aspect. If that's you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, I actually that's all the questions that I have for you. Unless you guys want to talk about any other topic.
Not
Can't say that I do.
No.
not particularly.
I wanna.
Like
Yeah.
the only thing I could think of would be like tips for players, but like that you can do that on a different podcast or just in general. You can just go and talk to anyone. I know
No, but
that.
actually, I forgot. I wanted to touch on that, and especially you reasons, since you are one of the best managers that I've seen in this community. When you're handling over 5 different time zones on a team.
Thank you.
Yeah, I still I don't understand how you do it, but
A
scheduling.
lot of sacrificing.
Scheduling is one of the biggest things and the biggest issues that I've seen in the newer competitive community, in the amateur community, because people have work, people have school, people have stuff to do, and they won't necessarily be willing to give it up just to play a game that they don't know if that they probably just won't even make money out of.
Yeah.
What are your tips on being a more efficient manager? As like in getting your stuff done, like getting your scrims done, getting your dry runs done, because all of that is just very important as a team.
So I well to explain that I have to explain a little bit of what ICS kind of is and like I am a manager, yes, but in essence, every single one of our players kind of follows the same thing. Where like we all handle our own stuff. So like for example, Kem, one of our players, he does a lot of the quote unquote marketing stuff. So he does a lot of the looking at like merch, looking at logos, looking at certain things that we can use.
Mm.
And like that's what he does. We have X who works on a lot of the tech stuff. We have custom bots in our server that we use for scheduling that tie in with like just I don't we were planning on using Google Calendar, but ended up being a little finicky, so he made his own. And then like I work a lot on the scheduling and a lot of the interpersonal stuff. And then we have like Mizu, who's working a lot on the strats and working a lot on, and we all do strats. We're working a lot on the strats, working a lot on the mental aspects. So it's a big part of running, in my opinion, a team where you have so many conflicts. Is just everyone has to be able to handle their own stuff, and everyone comes at it in a professional way.
Mhm.
Nobody's going into this going, all right, reasons you need to 100% have this done every week on the dot. Like if I'm struggling, I can be like, hey X, can you help me a little bit? And then he'd be like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like I got you. So you need to have a friendship as well, in addition to having strong leadership. And it's sometimes it's really hard to do. There are some people that don't understand that when they come into our team as, and we invite them in and we talk to them and stuff like that. And they're like, all right, so who's your leader? We're like, we're all kind of leaders in our own way. We all kind of work together on a lot of what we have to do. And
Yeah.
at the same time, that's really hard to do. Like we've sacrificed a lot to do it. We definitely, like, if we had dropped certain people and picked up more people, or if we had just one strong leader, we could be further ahead. But then we wouldn't be able to play together. We wouldn't be able to have fun, and like a lot of that stress, a lot of that burnout comes along with that.
Mhm.
And we want to stave that off. We want to be into this scene as long as possible, and we want to see how far we can take this.
Yeah. Because I can definitely understand. Now, I'm not gonna hold you back, guys, any longer because we have talked a lot off screen. We have talked a lot today, and I know that you see, so you have screen commitments to do. So if you have,
Yeah.
you wanna shout out anybody, if you had any social media when people can follow you or your team with, go ahead and say so. Any special announcement that you guys might wanna do, go ahead.
Well,
That's
everyone
a
talk.
that's a nothing from me.
If you want to talk to any of us, just hop in our Discord, ICS. I can't sleep. It's we're always willing to help people. I actually have write ups and stuff if you want stuff. If you're looking at a competitive scene and you want to get into it, I have some notes and stuff that I've taken that I've given to other teams to help them start. So if you ever want to hop in, go ahead.
All right.
Pretty nice people.
I can definitely vouch for
Willing to
that.
help you.
Great
Um,
people there.
I guess if anybody knows me or knows a way to get a hold of me, I'm totally in for answering questions about BBT, me, or views on things. I guess on Discord, the best way would be to add me. Scissor number would be 7519.
I will put that in the description. Also, if you guys don't mind, I could also put your team's in the description, the team's Discord, so
Yeah,
people
that'd be
get out.
amazing.
Yeah, that. So, if if anybody wants to keep up with any of the international esports league news, follow us on Twitter at IE_esport, or follow our YouTube where this podcast is gonna be uploaded to International Esports League. Now, I thank you all for your time, and I thank you, Reasons and Caesar, for giving you so much of your time and your busy schedules to come to do something for the community, so that people can be entertained. And it's not only all about matches; it's all about more of a conversation that we can get going as people inside of it.
Absolutely. This was a ton of fun.
It was a ton of fun.
I can definitely agree. Now, I'll see you all of you next week. Have a great day.